We'll call tonight's council meeting to order. We have a quorum present, and tonight will be led in the invocation by Pastor Dwayne Williams of Friendship Baptist Church in Sioux Falls. After the invocation, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance, so at this time I'd ask everybody to rise.
Let us bow. Most gracious God, our Father, we come to you today with thanksgiving in our hearts because you have blessed us with a beautiful day. Your heavens has declared your glory. Your earth has declared your glory. You are God, and you are sovereign, and you have all power. Thank you, Lord, for watching over us. Thank you, God, for your presence here tonight in this meeting. Watch over these city leaders, dear God. Guide their steps. Guide the words they'll speak tonight. May they be reflections of love and inclusiveness. Lord, may your presence be known here through your wisdom being imparted to these leaders, Lord God, as they go forward to lead your people to higher heights. We believe by your power that this can happen. So we thank you and we welcome you here tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, tonight we have a proclamation for JC Week, and is Angie Collins and Clinton Finley here? They're not here, huh? Well, we'll read the proclamation and get it to them later, but it reads, whereas the Sioux Falls JCs have been a vital part of the development of young leaders in our community for the past 70 years, whereas the Sioux Falls JCs have contributed to the betterment of this community through its involvement in such programs as the Banquet, Toys for Tots, Adopt a Highway, and the 4th of July fireworks celebration. Whereas the United States Junior Chamber of Commerce and its affiliated state and local organizations have set aside the second week of October to observe the founding of the organization in 1920. Now therefore, I, Dave Munson, Mayor of the City of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim the week of October 7th through October 13th, 2007, as JC Week in Sioux Falls, and urge all citizens of our community to give full regard to the past and the continuing service of the Sioux Falls JCs. Okay. We started here tonight with the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
I so move. Knutson.
Knutson moves. Is there a second?
Second, Jamison.
Jamison seconds. Is there further motions on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Staggers?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
Brown? Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes. All members present voted. The consent agenda is approved 8-0. Is there a motion to approve the regular agenda?
So moved.
Kavanaugh and then Lentz. Seconded. Kavanaugh made motion, Lentz seconded. Further motions on the regular agenda? Seeing none. All in favor of approving the regular agenda will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Staggers?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes. All members present voted. The regular agenda has been approved 8-0. This is a time that we set aside a period of 5 minutes for anyone that wishes to address the council on a topic of interest to them, and we ask that if you come forward that you'd give us your name and your address, and for 5 minutes, anybody want to wish to address the council? I see no one coming forward, so with that, we'll move into the regular agenda, and that's item number 3.
Item number 3 is deferred action, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, the city, authorizing the issuance of its sales tax revenue bonds in one or more series, authorizing the use of the proceeds thereof to pay the costs of acquiring land and buildings in the city as part of the city's urban revitalization program, pledging a portion of the sales and use tax proceeds of the city to the payment of said sales tax revenue bonds, fixing the terms of such sales tax revenue bonds, authorizing the execution and delivery of one or more supplemental indentures between the city and the First National Bank in Sioux Falls, and authorizing the sale, execution, and delivery of such sales tax revenue bonds.
Good evening, Mike Cooper, Planning and Building Services. Tonight we are considering a second reading of this ordinance, which was introduced to the City Council as a proposal from City, still call it Citibank, but City, that would establish a $5 million revolving loan fund, line of credit, that could be used for property acquisition within our neighborhood conservation area, which again is that property west of Minnesota Avenue between 9th and 16th Streets. After discussing this with you at first reading, we decided to go back and make some modifications and have further review by our neighborhood committee as well as the fiscal committee and others. And so I'm going to go through tonight real quickly 2 proposed amendments that are being recommended as part of second reading. The first amendment would be to add a new section 1, which would include our guidelines that we had talked about with the fiscal committee. And these guidelines would be attached as Exhibit A to the ordinance. That would basically give us, the administration, the council, anybody involved with this program, an idea of how the funding would be utilized, what the process would be for buying land and selling land within this defined area. And I'll come back and talk about those as we walk through this. The second amendment, which is a new Section 4, would add language that prior to entering into a bond purchase agreement or similar agreement, the mayor will solicit a request for proposal for an underwriter or underwriters. This was an amendment that came from Councilor Kavanaugh, and it's a follow-up on our discussion in the past of looking at providing an opportunity for other organizations within the community to also express an interest in working with us on a program like this. So we are going to be presenting this to you tonight for second reading with those 2 amendments included in the final version of this ordinance. And then if we could just show attachment or Exhibit A, these are the guidelines for the neighborhood revitalization line of credit. And as I said, these have gone through extensive review by our neighborhood committee, by a fiscal committee that we have, which I'll show you in a second, the members, as well as discussions with the City Council Fiscal Committee. And I don't know if Councilor Costello has any comments on those as we go through this discussion, but we've made some revisions to this list as well through this process since first reading. So that's what's being presented to you tonight for second reading with the amendments. I want to quickly go through, for everybody's information, kind of a timeline of how we got to this point and some of the things that we've accomplished, some of the things that we would like to accomplish in the future. This phase 1 of our neighborhood conservation program started back in July of 2006. And as I said, that was really the beginning of our code enforcement strategy involving a number of different city departments, including the Attorney's Office, Police, Fire, Planning and Building Services, Health, Public Works, Parks and Recreation. And we started in the core area, what we called Phase 1 with the code enforcement. In September of 2006, we expanded that code enforcement activity into the Phase 2 area, which would be north to 9th Street and south to 16th Street. And then also in September of 2006, we started putting together a committee to begin looking at Phase 3 which is the redevelopment phase of trying to identify potential properties, potential land uses within this neighborhood area that we could solicit for redevelopment activities. We put together a task force that now includes 46 members representing neighborhood residents, property and business owners, business community, nonprofits, churches, school and government officials. And so far this year, we've met 7 times. We also conducted Project Nice and Keep within this neighborhood area in the spring of 2007, which was very successful and very much appreciated by the neighbors. We've also been working on discussion of redevelopment concepts within the neighborhood, including mixed uses and trying to, again, identify potential property within that 10th and 11th Street corridor that could be targeted for redevelopment projects. The City Council adopted an ordinance in May of this year that established a neighborhood tax abatement program for this neighborhood as well as other surrounding neighborhoods adjacent to the downtown area. And then now we are in the process of looking at funding sources for different types of neighborhood redevelopment activities. The Sioux Empire Housing Partnership is in the process of putting a project together at the corner of 10th and Menlo that would establish 6 units of affordable townhomes that would be owner-occupied, also within our neighborhood boundaries. We've also worked with First Premier Bank on a pilot program for next summer to establish a community garden program site. This is a program that the Parks Department has been working on for a number of years in conjunction with the County Extension Office and the Master Gardeners. And First Premier has been gracious enough to allow us to use a vacant site that they have in the area of 15th and Spring Avenue that would provide for approximately 30 garden plots that could be rented out. And that program would be coordinated through the Master Gardeners' leadership. We're also working with yet another subcommittee on an exciting idea for a neighborhood naming process. We've had one meeting with the neighborhood subcommittee. We're going to be having another one this week, and looking at ways of exploring an opportunity for the public to submit names to give this area a name, because we continue to call it the neighborhood or the area west of downtown. And so we're going to work on a process that we can solicit public input on that, and that would eventually result in a recommendation to you folks for approval. We're also working with the South Dakota Multi-Housing Association on the basics of property ownership classes. They've had one class so far, which was offered to the public. I believe there were 16 people that showed up for that. And that's a program where landlords and tenants are invited to attend, and they're given a very comprehensive overview of city ordinances, city programs that would be of interest to people that are renting property and people that own rental property. There's another class that's being offered next March of 2008. And that was a program that was really put together by the group, the Multi-Housing Association, in conjunction with, if you recall, when we came back and addressed the rental registration ordinance, that was one of the initiatives that the Multi-Housing Group wanted us to pursue. We've also been working with what we call the Technical Finance Subcommittee, which is a group of 8 area banks, 2 housing partnership agencies, and city staff. We've met 3 times within the last 2 months to, again, look specifically at different types of financing strategies that we would like to pursue as part of our neighborhood conservation redevelopment phase. And we put together what we call a toolbox for the neighborhood that I'll go through here real quickly. I have a list of the current membership of our Neighborhood Conservation Committee, which is the group of close to 50 members now that have been meeting for a long time. and have been very, very committed to working with us on not only the conservation, or I should say the code enforcement, but also the redevelopment phase of this program. And then also we have the members of our Technical Finance Committee that we continue to expand also because, again, there's a lot of interest in working with us on different financing incentives or financing components that we would be moving forward with, including the one that's being considered for tonight. And then we also have, as part of our Technical Finance Committee, I was asked to go out and talk to developers to give a better idea, or to get a better idea of exactly what type of financial incentives, financial analysis would be looked at in terms of redevelopment projects. And I've met with about a half a dozen developers. We're expecting that 3 of those would come back with a hypothetical pro forma analysis. The first one to respond was Craig Lloyd, and Craig is here tonight and would like to just quickly comment on his perspective as a potential developer within the neighborhood in terms of what is it going to take to put a redevelopment deal together for this particular neighborhood. But before we let him do that, I just want to quickly go through this table of tools, which has a lot of boxes and is very, very difficult to read. I apologize for that, but I just want to quickly summarize as we go from the left box to the right box of all the different pieces of what we've identified so far that we could put together in terms of our neighborhood conservation program redevelopment phase. On the very left side is a tool for property acquisition funding, which is what we're considering tonight with the city proposal. And that would basically be soliciting funds that we could use to go out and purchase property that would be targeted for redevelopment projects. We would also like to look at developer incentives that are provided by the City of Sioux Falls. We have the tax abatement ordinance. We would be looking potentially at tax increment financing, facade easements, whatever types of programs that the city already has in place that possibly could be utilized within this neighborhood area. The third box talks about tools for financing programs for renovation of owner-occupied housing structures. We've heard from our neighborhood committee that we would like to continue to expand opportunities within this neighborhood for owner-occupied rehabilitation and also making owner-occupied dwellings more accessible to people that would want to choose to live within the neighborhood. The fourth box talks about developer financing programs for renovation of multifamily structures. A number of years ago, the city had a program in place that was low-interest loans to rental property owners for rehabilitation projects. That was financed by community development block grant funds, which we no longer have available. So one of our goals would be to look at potential financing packages that we could assemble that would bring this program back and make it available with criteria that the developer, I should say that the property owner would have to follow to qualify for the program, and that they would have to follow once the loan is authorized. We also have the next box, our Neighborhood Conservation Assistance Fund for what we call community development subsidies. This is a fund that we're pursuing that would essentially allow us to put together the funds that would be hopefully solicited from the private sector, from major employers, from financial institutions, from utility companies that could be used for a variety of projects. And the one that we're looking at is that we could establish a fund to use to pay down the interest charges or the carrying cost on our land acquisition line of credit. So in other words, the line of credit that we draw down, we have to pay an interest charge. Can we assemble another pool of funds that could be used to pay that interest? And there are, right now we are soliciting, we are pursuing some grant funds that we can put together that would pay for that. And then you can see other activities that fund could potentially be used for. The South Dakota Housing Authority is also very interested in working with us on a number of different programs that they have available. And then as we go through the chart, we have developer financing for construction projects that would include mixed uses, affordable housing, as well as retail or office uses. And that's kind of what Craig Lloyd and other developers are being asked to present to us on what is it really going to take for a redevelopment project to be put together to make it financially feasible. We've got tools to assist with homeowner financing, single-family homes, as I mentioned earlier, tools for landlords and renters, education programs, which we already have some of that in place. We've also talked about expanding that program. Tools for small business development, for looking at what other services could be provided within the neighborhood, what other nonprofits could we bring into the neighborhood, or could we expand in the neighborhood that would be of benefit in providing services to the people that live or that have businesses within the area. Tools for quality of life programs, again, looking at the community garden. We're already looking at implementing that. Additional open spaces that we could provide for neighborhood use. And then the last one is looking at safety of the residents, things that we could do in terms of continued code enforcement. Are there things that we could do to enhance sidewalks, sidewalk repair, assistance with sidewalk repair? We're already working with Public Works on adding streetlights. We've done some of that. So there's just almost an endless list of potential activities that we can put together for this program. And I'll tell you very candidly that the response that we're getting so far is very, very positive. It's almost kind of overwhelming when you start to list all the potential steps that we could get involved with. But I'm feeling very positive that if we can move forward with this ordinance tonight, that there's going to be a number of other players that will be willing to step forward and help us in looking at not only the land acquisition component, but also some of these other potential partnerships as well. And as I said, Craig is here just to give you a real quick overview from a developer's perspective of what we think it might take to move forward some of these redevelopment projects. And with that, we are supporting your approval of our ordinance with the proposed amendments.
Questions of Mike?
Yes, Mike, just to clarify, the interest that we would be paying would be 6%, is that right?
Yes, the ordinance says that that the maximum would be 6%, up to 6%.
Yeah. Now, my understanding is that there was another bank in town that was offering us half that rate. Why aren't we talking to that bank?
I have been talking to probably 6 other banks, and as you saw on our fiscal committee, that we have pretty much all the major banks participating and working with this. And with the proposed amendment tonight that would allow us to go out and solicit proposals, I think that will address the question that you've raised tonight.
I don't think it really does, because, the agreement with Citibank says 6%. And my understanding is there was another bank that was willing to offer 3%. So why are we going 6%? Why don't we check with this other bank and see if we can get a better deal than 6%?
We will be doing that by the amendment of Section 4 in the ordinance.
No, I think can you explain Amendment 4?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll read it one more time.
But we're still going to be getting 6% interest on the Citibank
Chair,
loan,
perhaps
right?
I could address the...
Yes.
Okay, I'll do it.
Go ahead, Ken.
Section 4, the new Section 4, my amendment,
Yeah.
addresses specifically, Councilor Staggers, your question. It will not be, there is no agreement between the city and city. It will be accomplished through a request for proposal. If there are other financials out there that wish to compete for this, that will be their opportunity. So we will select the best deal.
So, Mr. Kavanaugh, we might not select Citibank. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
If you pass that, you got to pass that amendment.
Okay. I guess if I could get a copy of that amendment.
That was emailed, and that's one of the reasons that I was not at the 4 o'clock briefing, because we've been kind of working on this afternoon. But if you want to put section 4 back up there.
I don't know if I can read it or not from here.
Yeah, it's pretty basic. It should be on your screen right now, the section 4. And I'll read it one more time. Section 4, prior to entering into a bond purchase agreement or similar agreement, the mayor will solicit a request for proposal for an underwriter or underwriters.
And just to clarify, it's referring to also this present bond issue in the ordinance. Okay. Also, I was wondering about the Holland property that Craig Lloyd mentioned in his letter to you. Has the city directly or indirectly purchased any of the Holland property?
No, Bob Holland is a member of our big 46-member committee. His property is listed for sale, but we have not made any formal offers to him. We've just used that as an example of a potential redevelopment site for purposes of trying to explain all the different steps that might be involved in actually putting a project together.
Okay. Thank you.
Bob Litz.
You know, I'm on the committee, and I've sat on all these meetings with the exception of one of them, and it always has been our intention to have more than one financial institution helping out and going into this box of tools. Citibank is the first one to come forward, and I would hate to defer this or anything happen to this here tonight, because I believe that it would discourage other institutions from stepping forward as well. Citibank has been diligent. They've been to all the meetings. They've been paying real close attention to what's going on down there, and I commend them for stepping forward. I think it's a very important first step. It's a very important first gesture for this revitalization effort, and I hope that my colleagues would vote for this.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor Litz. Neither of the amendments brought forward by Councilor Costello or myself are designed to delay in any way. We want to see this happen too. We're fully supportive, as is the administration, of going forward. I'm certainly going to urge everyone to support this tonight. I think the concept of asking for an RFP should not delay anything, and I think we will get the best proposal. So,
Further questions?
And Mayor, if you want to ask Craig Lloyd to come up real quickly and just...
Yeah, I'm going to ask Mike, any others that want to address the council on item number 3? Others that wish to address the council on item number 3?
Craig Lloyd Light Companies, 3130 West 57th Street, Suite 112. When I was asked to come up with an idea what could be done in this area, I guess I was asked to be as creative as I possibly could and to come up with a process that we could deliver affordable housing and try to come up with a concept that how to take this area and redevelop it. And I kind of went back to some of the things we found out in the last couple of months as we traveled our group in Uptown on how does a redevelopment of downtown really exist, and what makes a great downtown and what makes a not great downtown. And we went to a couple different communities, and one of the communities that we went to was St. Louis. And a little story that we learned in St. Louis. In 1978, St. Louis had 185,000 people in the downtown core district. In 1997, it had 250,000 people in the downtown core district. Pretty substantial drop. Nobody wanted to be down there. It was going into disrepair. The buildings were abandoned. They abandoned a 480,000 square foot mall. The developer just walked away from it, which is Simon's, a huge developer that owns Mall of America, matter of fact. But they couldn't make anything work. Businesses were leaving, financial institutions were leaving the downtown area. They got together with a study group very similar to this. had people, banks there, they had city people there, they had state people there. They said, what are we going to have to do to create a new downtown and make it safe? So a couple of things they did is they try to address the idea of safety. So they put all kinds of different police stations around certain areas in the area so that the policemen were interacting with all the people in the area, and then that started making it feel safe. They also got together with the state, the federal government, and the city government and came up with all kinds of incentives for developers to come downtown and start redeveloping the old and decrepit buildings that were downtown. A lot of it had to do with historic tax credits we've seen, facade easements, tax credits from the state, because in Missouri they do pay a income tax, state income tax. They came up with all kinds of different ways. Today, there's right around 8,900 redeveloped areas in downtown. As far as housing units, condominiums, they built a new baseball stadium downtown. They did a lot of things that are different. Today, the population of downtown St. Louis is 560,000 people. In 10 years, they were able to accomplish this. And they did it by getting together, just as Mike and his group have, to try to figure out how can we solve a problem and make it a crime-free area and try to take that area. They made green areas in the downtown St. Louis area that were abandoned buildings, and they tore them down and made green areas and play areas for kids and family and business people to walk and feel comfortable and safe. They took ground level and they tried to encourage businesses to move back downtown, to have the person that had a small grocery store or a small clothing store or even the national retailers. The national retailers wouldn't come downtown because there was no rooftops or desirability in that area. They got all the government agencies that they could possibly get down in that area to start counseling centers. Anything that had to do with redeveloping, rebuilding an area, and the people there, because the people there that were still there after 20 years, they wanted to live downtown, obviously, because they lived in what was a decrepit area. Okay, where are we going? First of all, they had to figure out the affordability problem. And I will have to say today, it's not very affordable to live in downtown St. Louis. Some of these condominiums are selling at the low, low price of $1 million. But at least they got people moving back downtown in a Latin Mass area, and they do have an affordable, different areas and different types of these buildings. They cleaned it up. They made it a priority to clean up every part of that city that looked decrepit. I mean, you walk downtown now, they got new sidewalks, they got new streetlights, they got park benches, they got flowers, they got everything that goes along with making an area. Safety was a key concern. I told you about the police being moved into certain areas that were heavy at crime and stuff like that, and they put substations in these areas. They found banks that wanted to come forward and give them bonding funding, buy the tax credits at a higher rate than normal. They found government agencies that were able to support the people that live down in that area and to try to continually make an investment down there. You know, I've been involved in affordable housing in South Dakota for over 30 years. And one of the things I learned is that you need state, you need city, and you need federal participation to make affordable housing really, really work. One of the leaders in affordable housing, at least since 1986, has been Citibank. Now, I understood what Kermit said about going out to different banks. Don't have anything wrong with that. We're always looking for the best return on our dollar, and especially as you as council people need to do that. But remember, sometimes the price isn't everything, and Citibank has always been very, very creative in all the things that they brought to this state as far as affordable housing. They're the first people in Section 42 housing to buy those tax credits. They're first people to go out into the reservations and build affordable housing. The first ones to back, you know, rent-to-own housing. They're the first ones to back all these. So I just, you know, I'm not on their payroll, but I just know how they work and how aggressive they have been into supplying affordable housing in the state. You know, we got some great developers in this town. I mean, you got the Costello companies that probably built more affordable housing than anybody in the state of South Dakota. You got Dunham that did all the rent-to-own. We were one of the pioneers in our company with the Costello companies, a couple others, to start the Section 42 properties. And there's out-of-town people that are constantly coming into the city and seeing how they can be part of the city and also bring new ideas from around the country, and all those people need to be asked to participate. The big thing that I want to make sure of is that we do the right thing for that area. And not only that area, but once that area gets cleaned up, it kind of cleans up all the other areas. We're going to have a large investment in the downtown. Quite frankly, I don't want a cancer to start on the west side of Minnesota Avenue and start towards the downtown area. So I do have a selfish point. But with all that being said, is that, you know, you as council people were very, very farsighted in making this a redevelopment area. By doing that, you change the census tract, or you make the census tract a census tract 7, which allows you to have a 30% additional tax credits in that area. Also opens up a whole raft of other kind of financing in this area for a developer and the city to make that redevelopment work. You got to start working with the developer, but he needs the tools to be able to go out and ask state, local, and federal people for this money, which will also come back and help you as a council to also hopefully mitigate some of the differences that you're going to have to pay for these houses to clean them up. And just as a citizen, I want to commend you for taking the first step. Hopefully tonight you'll make the second step in making this part of a redevelopment area that we can all be proud of. Any questions?
Thanks, Greg. Kermit?
Yeah, Greg, you mentioned the example of St. Louis, where we have a lot of city involvement and private involvement and so forth. And that's taking place in a lot of other cities across the country, too. But
Correct.
Also, wouldn't you also say there is a trend throughout the country to redevelop central areas of major cities? Because developers are finding that, you know, these central areas have declining property values. Here's a good opportunity to move in, get some cheap property, and make development. Isn't that a trend that's really going across the country, too, just with the private initiative?
Well, any developer goes downtown in any city and says, I'm going to buy cheap property, I want to be rich, first of all, is crazy. Second of all, is misinformed, because it's not easy to redevelop a downtown area. The costs are tremendously higher than you would if I went out to the east, northeast, southwest part of Sioux Falls and built a brand-new development. The thing that makes it accessible and makes it profitable eventually, because it takes a long time to do this, is that you have city involvement and you do have some federal tax benefits because you're in a core district to redevelop.
Yeah, well, I think I could give you an example right here in Sioux Falls. We had the historic Loop shopping area that's being developed, those brand-new buildings there. I think that's a courageous effort there by a private developer. And, I don't mind having tax breaks for development like this, but I am very concerned about putting the taxpayer at risk. When we have the city buying property, my concern is the city will buy the property for a high price and then sell it for a low price.
Is it cheaper to do that or have a deteriorating area and have crime go up and then have all the other areas around it devaluate too, so it becomes even a worse problem?
Well, I guess if I had some money and there was an area that was, like you said, deteriorating and low property values that are close to the downtown, I would certainly want to start buying some of that.
Well, if it goes as low as it probably could, you probably could afford it even if you don't have any money.
Well, if I don't have any money, I just can't do it.
Kevin?
Just a comment. I think we're all concerned about, public expenditures of tax dollars in this area. I think most of us are recognizing the fact that there's probably going to be some cost associated with this. I want to take everybody back to what Mike reviewed with us. This has been over a year now since we went into this area. And I have to tell everybody, the amount of money in terms of manpower, not only from the police department, for our health department, building services, all of the things that we've done in that area have come at a cost too. And the taxpayers have spent a considerable amount of money going into that area, doing proactive enforcement. So you can pay now or you can pay later, but there's going to be a certain cost associated with this. And I think for us to go into these neighborhoods with the type of concentrated enforcement that we did over the last summer, that's very costly, and I don't think we want to do that on a regular basis. It would be much better if we invested, I think, what will turn out to be less money in redeveloping the area so that we don't have those problems.
Bob Jameson.
Craig, when you were talking to St. Louis, how about the property values of the city of St. Louis after all this effort? What did they do?
You know, Bob, they told me this number, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know why I didn't remember it, because I'm pretty good at remembering when things go from bad to much better. But, you know, I could sure check on that and tell you what the property values did, but I'm sure they went up drastically just because, you know, these guys have spent millions and millions of dollars. The nice thing about St. Louis, they got some of the most beautiful buildings for historic rehab that you've ever seen in your life. But they are increasing in value tremendously.
Thank you.
Kermit?
Yeah, Craig, in trying to develop this area, of course, there are many different ways to do it. This is not the only way we can do this. There are many different ways. Let me suggest another way and see what you think. Let's suppose we'll take Citibank as an example, that we have Citibank offering some low-interest loans. Okay, instead of having the city be the middleman, just simply have Citibank give those loans to developers. And then the developers go in there, purchase the land, and develop the property, instead of having the city buy the land and then resell the land.
What's the incentive to the developer?
You're going to make
Because
money.
he's putting all his money at risk. He's taking the risk. I mean, developers are no different than most people. They don't mind taking a risk. They want to make sure it's a fair risk. And you're asking someone to go into an area that I don't know any developer in Sioux Falls that went there and created that problem. And we're trying to come in and solve the problem. And I'm not saying it's our company or any other company, but I'm just saying you've got to take some of the risk away.
So you want the taxpayers of Sioux Falls to assume that risk?
Taxpayers of Sioux Falls will also benefit from it, because once that area is going to be redeveloped, last time I checked, taxes continue forever and ever and ever. I mean, they don't stop 5 years from now or 10 years from now. Go back to St. Louis. In St. Louis, if you redevelop a redevelopment home in downtown St. Louis or in a building or a commercial building, your taxes are froze, for 10 years. Sioux Falls, I believe it's 5 years, and it's on a tax abatement program and not a freeze. So, you know, you can. I think Kevin's right. Pay me now or pay me later, but someday you're going to end up paying. And you can either get the tax dollars starting to improve today, so that in 5 or 10 years you've got a reasonable chance of having some good taxable property down there, or it's going to continually go down.
I'd just like to point out that, you know, I think there are already a lot of programs, and if the free market system, as you suggest, were working, these developers would be doing it already, and we wouldn't have to incentivize. But they're not. It's not working now, and that's why we have the problem. So that's why we want to work on the solution. And second of all, I think, to Councilor Jameson's point, referencing the amount of property tax value that increases obviously generates more property tax for the city, which may, over time, I would imagine, would offset any cost associated with it. But I must say, Councilor Staggers, you sat in on at least 2 of our fiscal committee meetings, and we set out guidelines for administering this program, and I don't recall you ever offering any suggestions.
Well, I think I did offer a suggestion. If you remember the last meeting, Remember the suggestion I offered?
Other than don't
Let's
do
don't
it.
do this
Yeah.
program because it's putting the taxpayer at risk. It's unnecessary. What is going on here? There's an attempt to have the taxpayer assume some of the risk while other people move into the area and develop it and make some money. I just want the developers to go in there and make the money, make as much money as they want to. And if there's tax abatements we can give them or other tax breaks, I don't mind that at all. But I don't want the taxpayers paying for this.
Vernon?
There is one small section of that where privately it was invested in, but that has taken years to happen. We need to move on a grander, swifter scale, and that's what the city can bring to this in being a partner and investing in our future by going in and being able to acquire the land. That's what Mike has talked about all along, that we know that private investors aren't willing to go in and take up large sections for redevelopment. That's what the city brings to this partnership, and it is an investment. And the second point I wanted to make was that beyond the investment we're making, there's a quality of life issue here, too. We as a council have talked about the importance of affordable housing in this community. Well, housing is affordable in that area, but it's not livable. And what Craig is talking about and what Mike is talking about is making affordable, livable housing there. And that's a partnership that I think it's worth the city investing in.
Yeah, I guess I'm very much concerned about quality of life issues too. But when I go around talking to different people in neighborhoods, I'm talking a lot about senior citizens. And these individuals are worried about the quality of life and being able to stay in their own homes too. So we just can't, have a narrow focus here on that particular area. We also have to consider the other people throughout the community on fixed incomes who are paying these property taxes too. We want them to have a good quality of life. We want them to stay in their homes.
Greg, tell me, if you can remember, and I don't know if you can, when you went downtown, and this is a little different story, but when you went, I think, is the Van Brunt, is that the building you rehabbed down there right across from Holiday Inn?
Yes.
What were the property taxes in that prior to you getting involved in that?
0.
And what happened after you, and we invested a little bit of money, but what was the property taxes after that? Do you remember that?
Right now, they're $10,000 a year, and in 2012, I think they'll go up to $25,000 a year.
And so you start looking at that, and you start looking at these other areas. I mean, you do get a return, and I think as Greg and Kevin have talked about, it's a reinvestment that you really need to look at very strongly, I think. Otherwise, you just deteriorate to nothing.
Yeah, but see, Dave, the problem is that, the city might be giving some money out to some developers to develop a certain area. Okay, that's taxpayer money. Okay, the property taxes go up, but none of those property taxes go back for property tax relief for the people who initially gave the money. That's what we have to be concerned about.
Well, I think when you talk about property tax relief, I think the state's done a good job as far as the 30% that they offer the people. I mean, I think that there are some tools out there the state has, and that people that are low income, I think they can look at other programs that the state has to help those people too.
I would like to make a motion to approve item number 3 with the 2 amendments attached.
Second.
Can we just get a motion to approve, then we'll come back to the amendment? Is that okay with you, Kevin? Okay, let's Knutson, we have a motion to approve item numbers 3, seconded by Kavanaugh. Now, is there further discussion of that motion?
That is as including all amendments, correct?
No, we just got the motion. Now we'll go to the amendments, and if you want to take, I just want everybody to know that what we're doing is we're adding that section 1 that we talked about and worked with Pat Costello on, and then Kevin Kavanaugh's is section 4. So those would be, you can make a motion to approve both of those if you want, or you can do them one at a time and discuss them, but whatever the wishes of the council is, you can do.
We have to have a vote on the main motion first, before we can make
When
amendments.
you pass it, then you pass it. You can't, because then you pass it without the amendments.
Okay.
So you can't. So if you want to make one motion for the 2 amendments, or you can make them separately, whatever.
Mr. Chair, I would move to amend with the 2 proposed amendments outlined by Mike.
Second,
Okay.
Costello.
Costello, Kavanaugh made the motion to amend as we had discussed, and Costello seconded. Further comments on those two motions? There'd be two motions we vote on. I see no further discussion. All in favor of the motion will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Staggers?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes. All members present voted. Those two amendments have been approved. Now we're back to the main motion as amended, and we've got a motion that's been made and seconded. So further discussion? Go ahead.
Yes, I guess this evening, I think one of the main questions should be is why would we want the city involved in the buying of property? Have we forgotten the city has a poor track record? Remember the house on 26th Street? The city needed a few feet of property to widen 26th Street. But what happens? We end up buying the entire house. Remember the land on Dakota Avenue, located where the old bus station was at? The land was advertised on the internet for $25 a square foot. The city ended up paying $30 a square foot. Remember the houses the city purchases at a low price, tears them down, and then builds new houses? Sometimes the city puts $150,000 into a house and then sells it for $110,000. Besides a poor track record by the city, there doesn't seem to be a lot of experience in the planning department to be able to engage in these kind of development transactions. My concern is that the taxpayers will lose money when the city buys property for a high price and then sells it for a low price to a developer. There is also concern that sweetheart deals will be made. Let's face it, in the city of Sioux Falls, some developers are liked by the city. Others are not liked by the city. I think we should take the advice of a very wise senior citizen who lives on 49th Street. She told me, at least in regard to the Citibank loan, that maybe Citibank should directly loan the money to developers and let the developers develop the area, thereby keeping the city out of this. I strongly agree with this advice and would urge my colleagues to vote against this ordinance.
Kevin?
I won't even begin to try to address what I consider an appalling disregard for the truth. There's nothing inappropriate about what we're attempting to do here. Again, this is a redevelopment of a project. This project is a redevelopment of an area that needs public assistance. If you disagree with the concept of the government at any level going in and providing assistance to the redevelopment of that area, I can appreciate that. But let's not demean our planning staff or anybody else.
Mr. Chair, I have to respond to that remark. I won't put an adjective in front of the remark. But, Councilor Kavanaugh, where did I disregard the truth?
Mr. Chair? Buying and selling properties, we lose money in every one.
No, I never said that at all. That's my
yes, you
concern that's going to happen.
Mr. Chair, I believe I have the floor.
He has the floor, so let him respond, then we'll come back.
Specifically with regard to the Pagonis property, I believe we broke even on that.
I believe that we also put a lot of extra money into the house. And I guess I would say that we lost some money on that house after we did do some reconditioning of it. Of course, we had the example of buying the property where the bus station is for $30 a square foot, even though it was brought up at the council meeting before the vote that it was on the internet for $25 a square foot. Nobody really seemed to be concerned about that issue at all.
Just what Gerald has a question.
I need to respond to that because we also were told, Mr. Staggers, when the gentleman came and talked to us about that piece of property, he indicated to us that that ad had not been updated in a long period of time and that the price was $30 a square foot. We also had, I believe, 2 or 3 appraisals on that piece of property, so I think that's a misleading quote.
Well, I think that it's not misleading at all when you have it on the internet for for $25 a square foot. We buy it for $30 a square foot. Sure, he's trying to justify, what's going on. He's trying to sell the land, so he has to come up with that. And we don't even bother to try to negotiate. We just go right along with this.
It's also important to remember the senior citizens that live in this neighborhood. You talked about senior citizens on 49th Street. You and I attended meetings last year in that neighborhood. Senior citizens living in this area were afraid to go out on their porches in the middle of the day. So there are safety issues in that neighborhood that by redevelopment we can help address that and bring a better quality of life, also improve the value of those senior citizens' properties in that neighborhood. As for the planning department, Mike, I want to congratulate you. This has been a complex problem to deal with, and you have spent countless hours on this. There have been pitfalls. I know there will probably be some going forward, but you've been very flexible in this. You've proven that tonight by adding these, helping get these amendments in there, and I just want to congratulate you on putting together a very complex problem and finding solutions for it.
Bob,
I'd just like to advise my colleague, Dr. Staggers, that if he wants to get into the real estate business, if he would go to St. Louis and continue on across eastward, across the Mississippi River, that East St. Louis has a lot of really cheap property because they've done nothing and you could pick it up for nothing, and I'd advise you to get in the real estate business.
Mike, would you come up, please, Cooper? And tell, really, I really appreciate what you do very much, and tell them we don't just go out and buy property. We go through procedures, we go through appraisals, and when you look at 26th Street, we paid $161, I think, $5 for that. We sold it for $161, and we got the right of way we wanted, and I think it was 13,000 more cars we were able to get through that area because of what we did. We were able to get the easement for future development out there. I mean, it really was as good a deal as we're going to get on that. But go ahead, would you just tell them that?
Thank you for letting me respond, because I know that Councilor Staggers, you and I have disagreed on a number of issues in the past. I think that I've typically tried to treat you with a lot of respect, but I think tonight you really crossed the line when you start to question not only the planning department's ability, but also my professional integrity. And I'm very disappointed that you would say that at a public meeting. But irregardless of that, I'm going to go forward. I've got a thick skin. I feel very confident that we're going to be successful in this neighborhood. I think we're going to achieve the goals that you laid out in the summer of 2006 when we presented this to you as a real challenge to all of us. And we are going to work forward with the financing committees, the fiscal committee, the other fiscal people within the community to put together these programs that I've talked about tonight so that we can redevelop this property. And I certainly do not intend to spend any more taxpayer dollars than we absolutely have to be successful. I think there's going to be a lot of private entities that will want to come forward and help us in accomplishing whatever we want to do within this neighborhood. So I think we have the guidelines in place that you will have initiated tonight, and as we move forward with implementing those guidelines, I think we're all going to be very successful.
But as we just in the past, as we go forward, we'll have appraisals of land, and so that we know what the land is appraised at. And
we will follow all the procedures that we have to follow.
Right, just as we've done in the past with other properties. Just we've done that in the past, and we'll continue to do that in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? We got a motion.
Yeah, I just, my primary concern is that the city is going to be losing money on some of these transactions. I mean, if we could get a guarantee, I'd feel a lot better about this, but I don't think we're going to be getting a guarantee at all.
Further? Bob Jameson.
There are some success stories out there, and Craig Lloyd is sitting in the audience. He and I attended an auction on some property on 57th Street that went for about $350,000 more than the appraisal was for. And I think sometimes we dwell on the failures and don't look at the successes. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got a motion been made and seconded to approve item 3 as amended. There's been 2 amendments, we all know, so we've got the motion for us. I see no further comments. All in favor of the motion to approve as amended will vote yes. Those opposed vote no.
Councilmember Staggers?
No.
Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
All members present voted 7 yes, 1 no. Item 3 has been approved as amended. Item number 4.
Item number 4 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing appropriations and the means of financing them for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2008.
Good evening. Tom Huber with the Finance Office. This ordinance would appropriate the budget for the governmental funds for 2008. Total appropriation is $214,469,162.
Questions of Tom on item number 4?
Yes. Tom, I have a question about the difference in numbers on the property tax that was in the budget that we passed here at the City Council, and then also what's in this ordinance. I don't know if somebody could show the overhead.
It's up there. Put it on the monitor.
It's not on the TV. It's not on the TV. There it is. Yeah. Tom, in the budget, we have down $37,769,699. Yeah, $699. Okay? So that's the number we passed with the budget. Okay, now with the ordinance tonight, we have a different number. And that's awfully hard to see on the screen there. But the number is $37,997,562, almost $250,000 difference. How can there be this difference between what we passed in the budget and what we have here in this ordinance?
When we prepare the budget, we're preparing that budget based on forecasted growth estimates. We don't have the actual amount of growth that's certified to us by the county. Middle of September, end of September, we get the actual amount of growth. And in this case, we were off by 0.6%. We budgeted 4.6%, and the actual growth was 5.2%.
Yes.
So that's what you see there. 37,997 is at the county certified growth level.
Yes.
This is very similar to all of our other revenue estimates. We don't know what each revenue class is going to produce: sales tax, interest earnings, charges for services, intergovernmental revenue, bank franchise tax, all those. They're all estimated when we do the budget. This is one we get just before we do the appropriation ordinance. And again, you don't know that you're going to collect every dime of this either. Often, you won't collect 100% of the property tax levy. This is done for levy purposes.
Okay, my question then continues is, shouldn't we have an amendment then by the City Council making this change? Because, between the budget and now, anybody could say, well, I'm going to change this number, I'm going to change this number, on any line. But on this one here, shouldn't we have a formal amendment for the City Council to actually vote on?
Well, first of all, you are voting on the ordinance and the property tax levy as certified by what the county provided to us as certified with the growth. Second of all, we don't amend the budget every time we have a change in revenue estimates. Again, the total revenue package is put together on what we estimate that we will receive. One thing we're certain is that we will never hit it right on the mark. We're either up, we're down, we try. Hopefully, at the end of the year, once you combine all the revenue classes, we meet or slightly exceed our budget. But that is, we're budgeting a year in advance, and that is certainly not always going to be possible to predict those revenues as well as we might like.
So if we did have any changes on line items, we would have to have an amendment, wouldn't we? I mean, it seems logical we would.
We're not changing the budget or the appropriation at all. All we're doing is changing the levy to the county. And again, we hope to get $37,997,562, but we don't know for certain that we're going to get $37,997,562. So again, it's based upon what we're certifying to the county.
Okay.
Other questions of Tom on item number 4.
I move for approval.
Knutson moves. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Litz seconded. Further comments?
Yes, I have an amendment. I move to prevent a 3% city property tax increase by changing the amount on the last line of the ordinance from $37,997,562 to $36,944,438. That would prevent a property tax, city
That's
property
your
tax
motion?
increase. Yes, that's my
your
motion.
Okay, is there a second? That motion dies for lack of a second. We've got a motion been made and seconded to approve item number 4. Further discussion? I see no further discussion. All in favor of the motion to approve will vote yes. Those opposed vote no.
Councilmember Staggers?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
All members present have voted. Item number 4 has been approved 8-0. Item number 5.
Item number 5 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving the release of a portion of the permanent easements in vacated West 37th Street from South Louise Avenue to the Big Sioux River.
Good evening, Chad Heavey, Office of Public Works, Engineering Division. This permanent easement is located in vacated 37th Street from Louise Avenue to the Big Sioux River. This easement was reserved when the resolution to vacate this right-of-way was adopted by the City Council on November 8, 2004. Louise Avenue Partners, LLC, has requested that a 6-foot by 182-foot portion of this easement be released to facilitate redevelopment of this area. There are no utilities in this portion of the easement, and the remainder of the permanent easement in vacated 37th Street will be retained.
Question to Chad on item number 5. Let's go 6 then.
Item 6 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving the release of permanent easements in the north one-half of vacated First Street between Main Avenue and Falls Park Drive.
This permanent easement is located in the north half of vacated First Street between Main Avenue and Falls Park Drive. The easement was reserved when the resolution to vacate this right-of-way was adopted by the City Council on June 26, 1989. Falls Overlook, LLC, has requested that this easement be released. The only facility located in this easement is a sidewalk, which is maintained by the Public Works Department. A permanent sidewalk easement in the north half of vacated First Avenue will be granted by the property owner. The permanent easement in the south half of vacated street will be retained.
Questions on 6? Let's go to 7 then.
Item 7 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving the release of permanent easements in the vacated alley adjacent to Block 36, Brookings and Edmonds addition.
This permanent easement is located in a vacated alley east of Main Avenue and north of vacated First Street. The easement was reserved when the resolution to vacate this alley was adopted by the City Council on May 28, 1991. Falls Overlook, LLC, has requested that this easement be released. There are no utilities located in the easement.
Question to Chad on 7. Let's go to 8.
Item 8 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving the release of a permanent sanitary sewer easement in Lot 6 of re-subdivision of Sioux Falls Farmstead.
This sanitary sewer easement was obtained from Warren and Hilda Friesen on May 6, 1996, to construct and maintain a sanitary sewer line east of Marion Road and south of Lakeshore Boulevard. Recently, a trunk sanitary sewer line has been extended in Lakeshore Boulevard and on the east side of Marion Road. This trunk line eliminated the need for the sewer line on the Friesen property, and it has been abandoned. Friesen Family, LLC, has requested that the permanent sanitary sewer easement be released.
Questions of Chad on item number 8? Not. Is there a motion to set the hearing date for items 5 through 8 for November 13th?
So moved, Jamison.
Jameson moves. Is there a second?
Second, Benninga.
Benninga seconded. Further comments on the motion at the hearing date? Bob does.
I had a question for Chad there on 6 and 7. Would those two, the easements that we're letting go on that there, would those two touch on the backside? So in effect, we're increasing the east side as well as the west? Okay, that would be the east side of the property, and then on the second one, the one prior to that, that would increase that property on the west or on the south side. Is that correct?
They will, yes, on the south side and the east side.
No, on this one we're looking at here right now, this has a bicycle path going through it right now.
It has
sidewalk.
It's tough to see, but you see that sidewalk runs to the west
Yes.
on the north side of East Falls Park Drive, and it curves around. We are vacating that north half, the portion in yellow, where that sidewalk is. That sidewalk is maintained by city staff. Once that easement is released, the property owner will then turn around and give to us a permanent sidewalk easement. So the sidewalk will stay as it is.
Both sides of this property, they kind of filled in with rubble, and it's really no man's land.
Right, and I think there's plans for redevelopment.
Very good. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, we've got a motion made, second to approve items 5 through 8. Is there further discussion? Reading the further discussion, all in favor of that motion at the hearing date for November 13th, will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Staggers?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
All members present have voted. Items 5 through 8. The hearing date has been set for November 13th, 8-0. Item 9.
Item 9 is a resolution approving a policy on temporary pump stations and force mains.
Good evening, Mark Cotter with the Office of Public Works. We've brought this policy to you first through Land Use Committee on September 4th. Following that, an informational meeting that we had a good discussion at on September 17th. And tonight, we'd ask for your ratification of this new policy that's been also endorsed by the IRAB committee.
Questions of Mark on item number 9? Others that wish to address the council, okay, come forward, give your name and address, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I'm Todd Anowski, Government Affairs Director for the Home Builders Association. We had a number of our members attending the lift station policy subcommittee that reviewed the criteria for establishing this new lift station policy. The overall goal was to establish a policy and present it to the Infrastructure Review Advisory Board. I'd just like to add that there was constant input from the members on the subcommittee to review the policy, and the subcommittee met from mid-July through August, and then it advanced to the IRAB board for consideration and whatnot. Basically, it's the home builder's position that this policy effectively uses the 2015 Growth Management Plan by taking into account future growth areas and a number of acres available that are developable, as well as the CIP funding in order to have an effective policy in place. And so basically the home builder supports this policy, and we would encourage yourself for favorable consideration of it.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you very much. Others that wish to address the council on item number 9? Not. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve. Brown.
Brown moves. Is there a second?
Second, Jameson.
Jameson seconded. Further comments on that motion? There being none, all in favor of the motion to
Yes,
approve?
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, got a quick comment here.
Sure.
This issue started about 10 months ago when a developer wanted to be creative and develop land at 69th and Southeastern Drive, a very good location where people would want to live, near Sioux Falls Christian High School and also the USF Athletic Complex, close to commercial development at 57th and Cliff. I remember several weeks ago I was at a football game, a USF football game, sitting in the stadium and looking out across the field and where this development would be. And boy, that is a prime location for development. While people might want to live there, the city did not want people to live there. The city did not agree that people should live there in the next few years. The primary concern of the city, a legitimate concern, was the cost of sewer. The developer countered by offering to put in a lift station at the developer's own cost. The city countered by saying the lift station might cause a problem with the city's sewer system. It was agreed that a study would be completed in a few weeks to determine if the lift station would cause problems for the city sewers. If there were no problems, development would go ahead. The study was never done. The city changed its mind and wanted to come up with a policy on lift stations. Tonight we have this policy, which is a bureaucratic nightmare that is designed to prevent development from being creative, while placing developers even more under the control of the city. We should reject this bureaucratic ordinance and go back to the main issue as to whether the proposed lift station would harm the city's sewer system. If not, let the development proceed.
Further comments? We got a motion made and seconded to approve item number 9. Bob Jameson.
For correction, the city council insisted on the policy before this project went forward. Thank you.
Bob Litz.
I also believe the developers council stood down here one night and said that they approved of this, if I remember right.
You've got motion? Go ahead.
Well, yes, I've got to mention, during the summer, the developer was trying to get this going, and even, I think the check was for $10,000 that was delivered to the Public Works Department to conduct the study, because they wanted to get this study going, so if it turned out favorable, they could start the development. But that $10,000 check had to be returned to them.
Okay, we've got a motion made and seconded. Further comments? Seeing no further comments, all in favor of the motion to approve item 9 will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Staggers?
No.
Benninga?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
All members present voted. Item 9 has been approved, 7 yes and 1 no. Item 10.
Item 10 is a resolution establishing the priority order of projects to be constructed in 2008 utilizing the Capital Improvement Program's development-driven street projects.
The administrative procedures for street improvements are outlined in Executive Order 02-49. 11 petitions for arterial street project were received and prioritized by staff from Public Works and Planning. During a CIP committee meeting on Thursday, September 20th, a public hearing was held for the development-driven arterial street projects. The public hearing was attended by 55 individuals. The CIP committee approved and recommends the following 5 projects listed in order of priority. West Madison Street from Marion Road, approximately a half mile to the west. East 41st Street from South Dakota Highway 11 to approximately 1 mile to the east. Southeastern Avenue from a quarter mile south to approximately a half mile to the south. West 26th Street from 600 feet west of Ellis Road to approximately a half mile to the west of Ellis Road. And 72nd Street North from North Cliff Avenue to approximately North Siebert Avenue.
Questions of Chad on item number 10? Others that wish to address the council on item number 10? Is there a motion to approve?
Move for approval, Benninga.
Benninga moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Litz seconded. Further comments on the motion? See no further comments. All in favor of the motion to approve, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Staggers?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes. All members present have voted. Item 10 has been approved 8-0. Item 11.
Item 11 is a proposed resolution vacating South Sycamore Avenue from the north property line of East 57th Street to the south property line of East Mission Street.
This portion of Sycamore Avenue was an improved rural section, but now is unimproved as a result of the realignment of 57th Street and Sycamore Avenue intersection. A utility easement will be maintained for public or private utilities.
Questions of Chad on item number 11? Bob James.
Will the wetlands be expanded into part of this project that this Sycamore Avenue goes through?
Yes, Area H, well, it was back on the previous sheet there. Because of the 57th Street project between Cliff and Sycamore, we have to mitigate wetlands, and we will be mitigating wetlands into that area that's designated up there by H, and will affect part of the vacated right-of-way.
And the corner that's left on this, be the northwest corner, will be commercial, or what is that designated for?
The northwest of the new alignment?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions of Chad on item number 11? Not, is there a motion at the hearing date for November 13th for item 11?
So moved.
Kavanaugh moved, is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Brown seconded. Further comments on the motion? See no further comments, all in favor of the motion, set the hearing date for November 13th for item 11, vote yes, those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Staggers?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes. All members present have voted. The hearing date has been set for November 13th. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Kavanaugh, a second.
Second, Jameson.
Jameson, second. All in favor, vote yes, those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Staggers?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes. All members present have voted. We stand.
Okay, so we'll see.